I started using drugs when I was about 18 years old, frequently. I did a bit of weed in my high school years, a lot of drinking in my high school years. Never just a few drinks and satisfied, always excessive amounts. I had to drive the owner's car. So the first thing I did was I went to central Durban and I just started using. And then eventually I took all the items in the owner's car and I pawned that. I pawned the radio in his car, and then eventually I pawned his car. And just as I was pawning his car is when the cops came and arrested me there. I couldn't hold a job. When I did get a job, it didn't last very long. I just needed more and more and more and more. Whatever money was paid to me from my pension and provident fund, I blew all of that on drugs, and I just used every single day. Up until a point where it was a Friday afternoon, and I'm walking out of my complex with a 50-inch TV in my hand. After 18 years, for the first time, he's coming to live with his dad. I steal his phone, I steal his watch. I almost tried to beat him up. I hated myself for becoming that person. The comments was, why don't you go and kill yourself? Why don't you just end it all? Why do you put yourself through this? Why do you put us through this? As a child growing up, I never felt accepted by anyone. I was always told, or I felt as if though I was always told I was wrong in everything I did, you know. I started using drugs when I was about 18 years old, frequently. I always tried to push the limit and see exactly where I can get away. And that set the foreground of my entire drugging career. It was roughly about March 1998. I was sitting on the road with my friends. We were just sitting and doing nothing, and we decided, let's go and smoke some weed. And the next day we did the same thing, and the next day we did the same thing, the next day, same thing. And then 3 months after that, we ended up smoking weed like every day. It was 3 months later, I didn't even know. We were all sitting together again, and someone said, you know what, weed's not just doing it for us, let's try something better. So we switched to Mandrax, buttons, and same story. First day, it was amazing, blew my mind, and never looked back. I roughly was doing about 17 Mandrax tablets a day, not one at a time, two at a time. Because of the amount of drugs that I was doing, these guys kind of liked me, and they enjoyed having me around. And that's when I first felt at home. Eventually I found my drug of choice, which is crack cocaine. I had my first hit of crack and I never looked back. It instantly numbed every sense in my body. It numbed every thought in my body. It took away any pain and emotion that I had. Crack being so expensive and so highly addictive, and you always need to feed the high, I ended up selling my stuff, pawning vehicles. My mom and my uncle approached me and they asked me to go to a 6-month treatment program at Sanka. It was an outpatient program. It was a 6-month program. I only stuck with it for 4 months and then quit. And I managed to stay clean for a further 4 months. I was still drinking at the time. I'd black out, or I'd not know how I got to places, or just do a lot of crazy stuff under the influence of alcohol. And very soon after the 8 months, I found out my high school girlfriend was pregnant, and we got into negotiations with the family. She came over to live with us for the rest of her pregnancy, and her family then asked me to convert to Islam because she was Muslim, and I said no. And eventually they just came in and took the baby away from me, as well as my girlfriend, and I immediately went back to drugs. I never had to face realities because I always had the crack. I eventually started losing all my personal items, cell phones, clothing. I pawned almost every car I ever owned. I pawned my mom's car a few times. I took the radios out of their cars. I've stolen cars from my family members. I built up a huge list of people that actually started hating me. I packed up everything in Durban, moved up to Joburg, lived with my aunt and my uncle. Eventually, once I got a good job, I worked hard into that job. I really did whatever I could. Still drinking, I was able to achieve. In 9 months, I received a promotion. I got into dispute with them and I left. I was unemployed for about 9 months. And during that 9 months is where I went back to drugs again. And that was me. I was a hill row pretty much every day. I was sent to another rehab in 2004. It didn't get me away from the drugs. I would drink, and then after a few drinks, I'd need crack. I just had to have it. I'd get paid at the end of the month and I'd just blow my entire salary on crack. So that went on for roughly about 7 years of working, use your entire salary to do crack, work, use your entire salary to do crack. And the jobs didn't last very long. I'd keep jobs for anything up to 3 months. And another uncle of mine got me a job as a driver. I'll never forget the day. It was a rainy day, so I couldn't obviously drive the bakkie. I had to drive the owner's car. So the first thing I did was I went to central Durban and I just started using. And then eventually I took all the items in the owner's car and I pawned that. I pawned the radio in his car, and then eventually I pawned his car. And just as I was pawning his car is when the cops came and arrested me there. I spent 2 months in prison. I came out. They gave me a suspended sentence after fighting and explaining the situation, under the condition that I go to rehab. Everything just got worse. I got a job for a big IT company in Johannesburg, worked my way into management, and then 2 years later I messed that up because I started stealing from the company, started stealing laptops, projectors, and then eventually we had a hearing. And this is a bunch of HR guys and managers, everyone in tears, telling me, Siven, there's nothing we can do for you. We have to fire you. I got a job with another company in Rivonia. Same story. I walked in trying to come off drugs, hoping that I could get away from the using. But I needed it every day. Eventually, I couldn't do it anymore. I just needed more and more and more and more. And that's exactly what I did. I stopped going to work. Whatever money was paid to me from my pension and provident fund, I blew all of that on drugs, and I just used every single day. It was a Friday afternoon, and I'm walking out of my complex with a 50-inch TV in my hand, and I'm about to hand it over to the drug dealer, which I did. And then I'm sitting on the couch in my house, there's no TV on the wall, and my mom and my sister walk in, and that's like the first thing they see. And at that point, I remember the words clearly from my sister's mouth. It was, get the hell out of here. I don't ever want to see you again. The comments was, why don't you go and kill yourself? Why don't you just end it all? Why do you put yourself through this? Why do you put us through this? And I just sat there high as a kite. I felt as though the entire world hated me. In fact, I knew the entire world hated me because of what I'd done. I even hated myself. My son came to live with me last year. I steal his phone, I steal his watch. I almost tried to beat him up because he got in my way of trying to leave the house. So the entire family went back to Durban and we were at a flat in Toti. I asked my mom to give me some cash because the drug dealers were literally on the road at the bottom. And she refused, and I just got in this heavy fit of rage. I was in the flat lying on the couch watching TV in this rage because I wanted to do drugs, I couldn't get drugs. They had locked the doors and they only came back at about 10 o'clock that night. And here's me lying on the couch with the black screen of the TV on, no lights on in the flat at all. And they open the door and walk in, and my 2 nieces come running. They came to surprise me because they haven't seen us in a while. They came, Uncle Siven, hey, how are you? Surprise. And then the next question was, why are you sitting in such darkness? And for me, at that point, it clicked. You know, Siven, this is your life. This darkness that surrounds you is your life. The next day, the 4-year-old comes by. He says, Uncle Siven, just remember, Jesus loves you. And then I think about 2-3 days later, I've been searching for rehabs and I found Redemption Hill. When I had come to Redemption Hill, I drove up to the gate in the driveway, a practicing Hindu. But I was so desperate to get out of the life that I was in. I said, I'll do anything. I'll do whatever it takes in order to make it work. I literally told God, this is my life and I've done nothing with it. I've squandered it, I've wasted it. I'm giving it to you now because you're the only person I know that can do something with this because I've done nothing with it. Eventually, the breakthrough came about 3 months into my program. Psalms 50 verse 15 It scared me the most because it says, call upon me in the day of trouble and I will deliver you and you will honor me. At that point I knew he delivered me, and now he's calling me to start doing his work, to start showing people what happened to me and how I've changed and maybe changed them. I've got a loud voice, so I tell the guys, God gave me a loud voice so I can speak, and he gave me the gift of understanding so that I can deliver his message through my life. I've been here now for 8 months, and I'm having an amazing time. I really don't want to leave this place. Believe it or not, I have a family amongst these band of brothers. My name is Siven. I'm no longer a slave to sin. I'm a child of God.